Welcome to Paddock Pulse, the place where we breathe, live, and analyze every single heartbeat of the Formula One world. I'm your host, Myke, and today we are diving into one of the most complex, controversial, and fascinating psychological profiles in the history of the sport. We are talking about none other than the three-time world champion, Max Verstappen. Recently, Checo Perez, a man who knows Max better than almost anyone on the grid after spending 4 intense years as his teammate at Red Bull, gave a statement that resonated through the entire paddock. He described a man with two faces, a kind, exceptional human being outside the cockpit who completely transforms into a different entity once he clicks that harness and pulls down his visor. This is a story about the switch, the legendary temperament of champions, and the thin line between being a competitive genius and losing one's composure. But before we break down Checo's explosive revelations and what they tell us about the 2025 season, I have a quick reminder for you. If you want to show your support for your favorite drivers, head over to Paddock BR. We have an incredible selection of Max Verstappen t-shirts and gear. Make sure to use the Paddock Pulse coupon for a special discount. And for those of you who want to feel the G-forces in your own living room, check out Evo Design. They have the absolute best cockpits, steering wheels, and sim racing setups. Basically everything you need to channel your inner Max vaping. Use the coupon RESACA over there to save some money. I've even got my Alonso helmet here today, but our focus is squarely on the Red Bull dynamic. Checo Perez was Max's partner from 2021 to 2024, a period that saw some of the most dominant displays in racing history, but also some of the most fractured internal moments. Now that Perez is no longer wearing the Red Bull navy blue, now that he is back on the grid and free from the restrictive PR chains of Milton Keynes, he is finally speaking his truth. In a recent interview, which has been making waves across all motorsport platforms, Perez laid it all out. He started by praising Max as a person, calling him excellent and exceptional. But then came the but. Perez explained that something physiological or psychological happens to Max when he enters the car. He transforms. He becomes someone else. Perez went back to a specific wound that never truly healed, Brazil 2022. You remember that day at Interlagos. The team asked Max to let Checo through to help him in the fight for second in the championship. Max's response was cold, calculated, and defiant. He told the team, "I gave my reasons and I stand by them." According to Perez, Max was holding on to a grudge from Monaco earlier that year, a suspicion that Checo had crashed intentionally in qualifying to secure his position. Think about that for a second. The months between Monaco and Brazil are a long time in the world of F1, yet Max kept that fire burning in a dark corner of his mind. The team thought it was settled. Everyone in the garage thought they had moved on. But when the pressure was on in Brazil, that hidden resentment exploded. This is what Perez means when he says Max is bitter, or carries a specific kind of rage into the cockpit. Once that visor goes down, the nice guy Max is replaced by a predator that does not forget and does not forgive. Is this a weakness, or is it the very thing that makes him a god among men on the racetrack? If we look back at the history of Formula One, this isn't a new phenomenon. It is the recurring theme of the greats. When you look at the legends I've had the privilege to watch, even if I was just a kid during the peak of Michael Schumacher, or watching the rise of Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, you see the same pattern. These men do not accept defeat. They do not accept being second. They do not accept orders that diminish their standing. They are, by definition, difficult people to deal with when they are in the heat of battle. Think about Lewis Hamilton in 2016 at the Abu Dhabi finale. He was on the world stage, telling reporters he would race clean and respect the team's wishes. But once the lights went out and he realized his title was slipping away to Nico Rosberg, he ignored every single command from the pit wall. He backed Rosberg into the chasing pack, essentially telling the team, "Deal with it," while he fought for his own glory. Then you have Fernando Alonso. Everywhere Fernando goes, he leaves a trail of brilliance but also a trail of political intrigue and internal friction. He is a warrior who demands the team revolves around him. And of course, Michael Schumacher, the man who was so obsessed with perfection and winning that he would occasionally cross the line into the unthinkable. Even his own family and colleagues couldn't always defend his actions, like when he intentionally collided with Damon Hill or Jacques Villeneuve. It wasn't because he was a bad person, it was because his brain was wired to win at any cost. Max Verstappen is the modern evolution of this archetype. Sebastian Vettel, in his prime, was exactly the same. Do you remember Multi-21? Vettel was told to stay behind Mark Webber, but he saw an opening, he saw a win, and he took it because his DNA wouldn't let him do anything else. Verstappen takes this even further. He has a mental strength that is almost frightening, but as Perez pointed out, his temperament is his Achilles heel. When things are going perfectly, Max is a machine. But when the car is behaving badly, or when a rival like George Russell is standing in his way, he loses his stirrups, as the saying goes. Take the Barcelona incident in 2025. Max was frustrated, the car wasn't where he wanted it, and he ended up lunging at Russell in a way that was more about aggression than strategy. I remember laughing about it at the time because it was just so quintessential Max. He despiricates, he goes wild. And those moments have real-world consequences. Max might get angry at journalists who point out that those lost points in Spain cost him the championship, but the math doesn't lie. In 2025, those 9 points were the difference. If he had kept his cool, it wouldn't have mattered what McLaren did with Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri. Max would have been the champion. But he couldn't help himself. He couldn't handle being the one who was below, or the one who was losing. This brings us to the famous comparison with Ayrton Senna. There is that legendary interview where Jackie Stewart, a 3-time champion himself, confronted Senna about his aggressive driving. Stewart pointed out that Senna had been involved in more accidents than all the other champions combined. Senna's reaction was identical to the way Max reacts today. He didn't reflect, he attacked. He pointed his finger at Stewart and gave the speech that is now plastered on every t-shirt and car wash wall in the world. If you no longer go for a gap that exists, you are no longer a racing driver. It was a brilliant piece of PR, but in reality, it was a defense mechanism for a man who could not admit he was wrong. Senna and Alain Prost did the exact same things to each other. Ramming cars, political maneuvering, refusing to lose. Max is the heir to that throne. He is a leader, as Helmut Marko and Checo Perez both agree, but he is a leader who leads through sheer force of will and intimidation. When you see Max in your mirrors, you feel the pressure because you know he is willing to do things you aren't. He doesn't care about the no to 7, or being good enough. He only cares about the 10 out of 10, the victory, the dominance. As we look forward, we have to ask, can Max change? Or would changing him ruin the very thing that makes him fast? Perez thinks Max wouldn't be Max without this edge. If he wasn't the guy who shuts himself off and becomes heartless in the car, he might lose that 1/10 of a second that puts him on pole. It's a paradox. The very fire that burns his rivals sometimes burns his own championship hopes. But that is why we watch. We watch to see these titans struggle with their own nature. Max Verstappen is a human being of immense talent, but inside that RB21 or whatever he drives next, he is a storm. And as Perez says, once that visor is down, the storm takes over. I want to hear from you now. What do you think about Checo's comments? Is Max's temper a fatal flaw, or is it his greatest strength? Who is the greatest, difficult champion you've ever watched? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Paddock Pulse, hit that notification bell so you never miss an analysis, and check out our partners at Instant Gaming for all your gaming needs and Amaram Global for international legal support. This has been Myke, and I'll see you at the next turn.